Hey guys, we are live and today we are talking about trading psychology. What is it and what it is not? Now, most traders don't fail because their strategy is bad. They actually fail because they can't execute their strategy when it matters. And it's a huge problem. If you are struggling with executing your strategy, just following your rules, it's not just you. You're not alone. It's a huge problem. We know that 95% of traders fail, and they fail for this reason. And most of them never actually figure out what it is. Why can they not follow their strategy? Why can they not follow their rules? And they actually quit. That's why they ultimately fail. So today we're going to dive into this because we want to sort this out for you. You want to start following your rules because you know that if you could just execute, if you could just follow your rules, you know what lies beyond that, right? So let's dive into this. I just want to check that everything is working. Looks good. Okay. What is trading psychology? Trading psychology is how you think and how you behave. And how you behave is how you execute your trades. Now, in trading, we have to do that under pressure as well. So we need to start understanding how are we thinking, therefore how are we behaving. That means we can't behave properly under pressure. I want to talk about this statement that most traders fail because they can't execute. They don't fail because their strategy isn't good. Now, if you did any deep diving into the trades you're taking, your behavior during a trading session, it's very obvious to most of us, very obvious to, I think, every trader, that it's the way you're executing. You're making mistake after mistake, and that all leads to ultimately revenge trading and blowing accounts. But most traders, 95%, change strategies. They get stuck in this loop of changing strategies. Now, let's just look at this. If you know that you're not executing a strategy, but then you look for a new strategy, what's really going on? This is psychology 101, and this is just one of many, probably hundreds of small little bits of psychology in your trading that affects the way that you behave. So let's dive into this one because this is the one that keeps most people stuck. You need to move forward to solve all the others. But I want to show you why this is a problem and why it's not solved for most people. So the evidence is that you're not following your rules, but your solution is to go and find a new strategy. This is the power of how we think and therefore how we behave. Now, the real problem is that you're not executing your strategy, you're not following your rules. But to solve that, we have to, as humans, first admit that it's us, okay? This is very painful. And the solution we jump to is to change strategies. Changing strategies is not painful. It's a lot of work, so you might think you're taking the the harder path. You're working hard because you got to start again, you got to start a new strategy, back test it. It's not painful. This is the easy option because the hard option is actually to look at yourself, to admit in the first instance, admit that it's you. This is very painful for us as humans. Now, what does pain represent to us as humans? It's similar to fear and danger, okay? And our bodies biologically are wired to protect us from anything that represents danger. Lots of things represent danger to us. Fear, discomfort, anything that's not pleasurable and easy represents danger, And our bodies are actually, from thousands of years ago, programmed that danger means death. Now, does it in this instance? No, but our bodies don't know that, okay? And we are so hardwired. You need to understand how hardwired we are to survive. Our survival instinct is out of this world. It's ridiculous, okay? And a lot of our survival instinct kicks in automatically. It overrides us, okay? So that's our first example of psychology at play, because psychology is how you think and how you behave. Now, if you're thinking, if you don't catch your thinking, if you don't become aware of your thinking, if you don't get control over your thinking, your behavior will be dictated by your natural biological state, which is to do whatever it takes to keep you safe and keep you alive. So that is why it's so easy for most traders, and I've been there as well. I was stuck in this loop of jumping from strategy to strategy, but it's very, very easy for us to believe that that's the solution, even though if, as I've now explained it to you, you're probably going, yeah, it makes absolutely no sense. But why do 95% of traders do that? Yeah, it makes no sense. This is psychology at play. And there are many, many, many moments like that, things like that during your trading, that the way you behave is on autopilot. It's your biological humanness that is behaving for you. And that is ultimately psychology. It's how you behave and ultimately how you think. So let's dive into this specifically more with trading, okay? Because now hopefully you're like, let me just stick to the strategy I have. I've tested it. It's profitable. Awesome. Now it's the painful bit. You've got to now look at yourself. How are you executing? Why are you not executing? This is a huge step to take, because getting out of that, going around strategy to strategy, is going to keep you poor, unprofitable, and inconsistent forever. Okay. The first huge step that you can take is to start actually diving into your psychology. Now, let's look at the trading environment and our psychology there. If psychology is how we think and how we behave, we are now in a trading environment. As soon as we think about opening a trade or open a trade, we're in the space of uncertainty. Uncertainty is terrible for us as humans. Humans hate uncertainty. Biologically, as a species, we hate uncertainty. Uncertainty causes massive issues with anxiety, depression, many mental health issues. I know a lot of it is also chemical, but a lot of it is also triggered by uncertainty, because we hate uncertainty. And a huge part of that is that uncertainty could mean death. Back in the day, back in the cave, if you were uncertain about where the food was coming from, uncertain if there was danger around the corner, uncertain, it kicks off that initial response in people, that in humans, that something bad could happen. Okay, so we hate it. Biologically, we hate it. And we now understand that if you're not in control of your thoughts and your behavior, the override behavior is just you on autopilot. And that behavior is things like FOMO, revenge trading, fearful trading, all the mistakes you make is just you on autopilot behaving against the stimulus, which is uncertainty. Now, just opening a trade, thinking about opening a trade, starts this uncertainty. Now we add in, so remember, uncertainty is a pressurized environment. Okay, it's already pressure. Now we add in, you've just had 2 losses. You've got a bit of profit on the table. Your accounts a little bit in drawdown. Your trade is in the red. It hasn't hit your stop loss, it's just in the red. All of this adds to this pressurized environment, and the stress on you is enormous, and that's why your logical side can go into overdrive, overwhelm, and meltdown, and your beautiful biological self will kick in for survival, and it will do whatever it needs to do. Now, let's quickly look at the survival tactics that we have. FOMO, to jump into a trade to fear of missing out, it keeps you, humans hate the uncertainty and the pain of missing out. So, of course, it wants to get you into the trade to relieve that pain. A lot of this is about relieving pain, relieving discomfort. If you've got profits on the table, the fear of losing those profits is almost worse than just losing the trade. So it's painful, and your response to cut winners early is for the relief of that. If you're in the red, we actually feel more comfortable in losses. People get more comfortable with taking stop losses before they get comfortable with letting profits run, interestingly enough. But the reason in red you feel horrible and you might start moving your stop loss, taking it away completely, is because of the pain of admitting that you were wrong on this trade. You're not wrong. Your strategy will have losses. How is that wrong? But our brains, remember, if we're not in the control of our thinking, our automatic response is this. Okay? It's not you. There's nothing you're doing wrong. You're just allowing your human self to be on autopilot. Okay. So I think we now understand what psychology is. It's the way you think and the way you behave. And there is a way, that's what we're going to cover at the end of this webinar, is three-part system that you're going to implement. And it's going to allow you to not just let this thinking and behavior be on autopilot. We're going to start controlling it. That's very powerful. That's actually where you start making changes in your psychology. I just want to make sure I've covered everything. Good. So now we understand that there's this already pressurized environment of trading, and now you add to the pressure with the FOMO, the losses, and when that pressure gets at boiling point, we actually will then revenge trade, and we almost revenge trading to blow the account, because getting rid of the account, you've achieved the failure that you were so afraid of, and it's actually a huge relief. It actually feels better just doing it. There, it's done. Now I don't have to be so afraid of doing that. The relief is amazing, and that's what your body is doing. It's trying to get you to safety, and even a blown account feels more safe than sitting with this uncertainty. Okay, now let's clear up what trading psychology is not, because we're going to start looking at solutions now. Trading psychology is not motivation, affirmations, just promises, stop doing it. If motivation could make us profitable, we'd all be profitable. We've all got a lot of motivation. There's no shortage of motivation here. We're all, working very hard. We're coming back after loss after loss, after failure. We've got the staying power, but that is not psychology. And it's never going to fix this for you because of what you're up against. You're up against a very powerful process, which is the human biology. It's kept humans alive for thousands of years. This works, and we are trying to now tame it for our trading. I want to also, just before we get to the solution, let me just check how we're going here. Fabulous. I want to talk about fear and greed, because I don't think we can talk about psychology without talking about fear and greed. The bad advice, the worst advice is change. Here's a new trading strategy that's going to make you profitable. That's the worst advice. The second worst advice is just don't feel anything. Okay? Bananas, basically. We are up against fear and greed. And what a lot of traders try to do, because they're told to do this, is to stop the fear and stop the greed. Just stop trading with greed, stop being so fearful. Well, you can't stop it. You can't make promises to yourself of, I'll stop being fearful, I'll stop being greedy. You're human. We have fear and we have greed. The best thing that you can do, and the thing you must do, and when I work with coaching clients, we go deep into this part of the psychology, because it's very bespoke to you, but you have to stop fighting who you are. You need to embrace who you are. Stop being so afraid of who you are. If you have fear, if you have greed, instead of trying to squash it and be like, stop feeling it, stop feeling that, name it. Say, I'm feeling greedy. And then you act in spite of that feeling. Eventually those feelings stop losing their power, but you need to actually embrace who you are first. And it can be very painful to embrace who you are, because you want to be this perfect trader who has no feelings, who has no fear, no greed, who just does everything perfectly. It's embarrassing to say, like, I'm scared, I'm greedy, but this is who we are. So if you can name these things, you've got far, far, far better chance to start managing it and improving it and changing it for your trading purposes than if you just keep denying it. You know, when you go for help as an alcoholic, and this is on movies all the time, we kind of know this, is that step one is to stand up and say, I'm an alcoholic. That's step one, because no improvement can come from not admitting what you are, who you are. And people find that very painful. Step one is very painful. Why? Again, psychology. But it's embarrassing, it's shameful. You've got to confront all of that persona that you're trying to let people know, like, this is who I am. You've got to now admit that's not who you are, because you're actually a fearful, greedy person. We're humans, okay? Embracing who you are is going to help you improve and change things for your trading purposes. You don't have to change who you are. You don't have to stop being greedy and stop being fearful. You just have to recognize when they're not helpful for your trading, and then you're going to act in spite of them. Okay, so it's really important. Step one here, okay, it's like we're at the AA. Step one is just, I'm a greedy trader. I'm a fearful trader. I'm a FOMO trader. I'm a revenge trader. Name it all. We've all been there. We've all done that with our trading. I've blown many accounts before I became profitable, and I've blown no accounts since I've become profitable. That's the change. Okay. Now, let's get on to our solution. So, obviously, the first and best solution is to do coaching with me. You contact Gerald below, because this is what I help clients with. We do it faster, better, deeper, more bespoke. It's specifically for you. But I also understand that a lot of people don't want to do coaching, and they're not in a situation to do that yet. So here's my system that you can go away and work on for yourself, okay? But this is only going to work for people that take action, that actually do it, that have patience with us, that do it day in, day out, even when they're initially not seeing any change. You've got to stick with it. It's like going on a diet. You've got to get through that first week and not see anything on the scales, and suddenly week 2, week 3, you start seeing the improvements. But most people quit after day 2. You cannot do this. You cannot quit. Okay, so here's the system. I'm going to tell you it's three things. And this is designed specifically. Everything I teach you is specifically designed because of how our psychology works. This system is one, to protect you from yourself until you have control of yourself. You are the hugest risk to your trading. It's not the markets, it's not the charts, it's not your strategy, it's you. You're a risk. So you do risk management for your money, you need to do risk management for yourself. So this system manages that risk. It helps you to manage the risk of you. Okay. It also is based on science that works with your psychology, because there are certain things that are just inherent. Now, inherent means that they just are there and you're going to have to accept them. And so your system should also accept that there are some things that are just going to happen, and it should support that. It'll make more sense when we go through the system. And then finally, the system is structured so that you can start to change and improve your psychology with trading, your trading psychology, so that you can start improving your execution. Because if we're not trying to, we don't want to just block the holes and plug things. Okay, this isn't just chanting motivational chants while you're trading. This is, we need to start studying ourselves and learning and change. So let's go through the system quickly. Let's just check we're still live. Everything's good. Okay, the checklist. 1, you must have very, very clear and very simple rules. Very clear, very simple. Why? Because you are going to be overwhelmed. You are in this pressurized environment. You need to understand the pressure. Humans don't cope well with this. When pilots are overwhelmed with even doing 2 things instead of just one thing, that's when they crash planes in emergency situations, because the pressure starts building and there's a limit to what logically we can cope with. And it's not much. It is not much that we can cope with. That's why your system, your strategy, your rules must be written out, and they must be very clear, and they must be practiced. You must have practiced your trades, because you don't want complexity here, because complexity is just going to open up that floodgates for your behavior to be dictated by your biological self, to go and override and just behave without you having control of it. Okay, so we're going to have very clear and very simple. You need to simplify your rules. Go as simple as you possibly can. When you ultimately get a handle on all of this and you're an experienced trader, you can do what you like. You can be as complex as you like. But if you're not yet profitable, you're not yet consistent, you need to do this. Simple, clear rules, because we don't want to overwhelm our physical system more than it already is. It's already at max. Don't add to that. Number 2, you need a checklist. As you go through those rules, you actually need a checklist. It probably needs to be on a piece of paper that you are just seeing something on a chart and then going to read your rule and ticking that rule's met. Why? Because when you are looking at the chart, believe it or not, and this is, I talked about this right at the start of this webinar, that in the face of evidence, we can still believe stuff that makes no sense, because our biological systems are so strong. What you see in a moment of pressure is not always reality. This is fact. So by breaking from the charts and going to check that rule is met, you're just doing an extra check so that your version of reality doesn't run away from you. Have you ever taken a trade and it's some terrible thing and you cannot recreate it? You can't figure out why you took it, what happened, but your note said great trade, like yes, this is the right trade, all rules make something, and you cannot find it afterwards. This is your reality being completely dominated by your emotional state, and that is not real reality. It's reality to your emotional state, but it's not real. So you need to have this checklist because it really does work. And number 3, you need to do journaling of, not of technical data of like entry levels and this, who cares? Take a picture, that's all you need of your trade. You need a journal before and after of your thinking, of your behavior. Before, what are you thinking? How, just note it. It needs a sentence, maybe 2. Then go and do your trading, and then see how it goes, and then write your journal afterwards. How did you behave? Okay. What you're doing is you're starting to gather data on yourself. You're starting to study it, and you can go back and read these things and start to understand yourself better, understand your thinking, become more aware of it. It's a process, but without documenting the stuff, you're just flying blind. And as I already said, your reality without proof is not actually reality. It's whatever your brain wants you to believe to keep you safe. Okay. You cannot start improving psychology, and you certainly cannot start changing it if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know how you're thinking and then how you're behaving. You need to start capturing this data every time you trade so that you can start analyzing it. This is the work. If you want to go this yourself, this is what you need to do. And the hardest thing is going to be breaking through that reality, because our brains trick us. And that is why coaching works, because I'm not tricked. I can listen to you and I can tell you that makes no sense. Your reality is not what is real. And I can see where you're overwhelmed with emotions, and therefore that's coloring your reality versus not. That's the true power of psychology, and that's the proper, the blocker is that our brains will tell us stories, will tell us whatever we need to believe to keep us safe. And with trading, it doesn't help, it doesn't work. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll be back next week. Put this into action. It works. Psychology is where it's at. It's where profits are at. It's where your consistency is going to come from. It will change your trading. And step number 1 that I hope you're taking is to stop jumping from strategy to strategy. If you're doing that, if you've stopped doing that, perfect. You need to give yourself a big pat on the back. That's huge. Most people never do that. Okay, you're starting to come into the small segment of traders that are actually starting to do the right things. Now you understand it's psychology. You cannot execute your trades, so you need to work on psychology. This is a great place to start. Implement the system I've just given you and stick to it. You need at least 3 months of consistent data of what you're doing, and you will start seeing results. I promise you. Okay, I'll see you next week. Thanks so much for joining. I appreciate it. I had a breakthrough once I started journaling. Fantastic. I always close the webinar without reading the comments. I'm super pleased. Yeah, journaling is so powerful, and if you can journal feelings, thoughts, behaviors, not data, you're going to save yourself so much time. It's such a waste of time to record financial data of levels you've traded from. Seriously, all you need is an image. Sometimes you don't need anything. You just need to know, was it a good trade, was it not, because of how you behaved, because of how you were thinking. Very, very powerful, and it gives you so much time back, because actually journaling about your inner state is faster, and it's more helpful and gives you your time back, because journaling all those data points, what a waste of time. It's the best thing I ever did was to stop doing that. I too journaled incorrectly at the start. So thanks for that comment. Very powerful stuff. Yeah. Okay, guys, thanks for listening. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to next week. And I hope you have a great trading week. And I'll see you next week.